The richest man in Congress has some advice for the poor of America. Basically, quit your bitching. Let's get his exact words, though. Here's Darrell Issa.
As one of the wealthiest members of Congress, do you feel personally responsible at all to address income inequality here in the U.S.?
Absolutely. America is the richest country on earth because we've been able to put capital together and we've been able to make our poor somewhat the envy of the world. If you go to India or you go to any number of other third world countries, you have two problems. You have greater inequality of income and wealth. You also have less opportunity for people to rise from the have-not to the have. The quality of public education, the availability of and access.
I remember when we were a less lib show and we could comment first on the beauty of the host. Anyway, okay.
He's a handsome man. Yeah.
Sure, that's that too. So look, first of all, if I was the richest guy in Congress, I'd shut up talking about the poor.
About $450 million net worth, by the way. A lot of money.
And I certainly wouldn't talk about how
much
good
did he get when he burned down his own business? I mean, when his own business burned down?
Accidentally.
Accidentally, yeah.
And he collected all that insurance, and that helped him get the wealth and the fame that he has now.
It's technically a fire sale.
He didn't burn it down. There's no evidence that he burned it down.
No, there's no evidence that he burned it down, and they couldn't convict him on it.
His skills in arson are the envy of the world.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's saying they're the envy of the world, and that coming especially from such a rich, well-connected, powerful, and generally annoying, idiotic person is a dick move, of course. Now, of course, on some level, he's somewhat right. They're the envy of some of the world's poor. I mean, if you were to ask the poorest people in America, would you prefer to continue to be poor here or be poor?
I don't think you guys understand what the word envy means.
No. I understand that, but I'm saying that generally, when you the idea of that, everybody wants to come to America, like the people who have the least in the world dream of coming here and working their ass off for 2 generations, so that someday their kids can go to college.
But they don't. Sorry, but they don't come here because they want to. They want to be Eric Garner or Michael Brown. They come here because they want to be Darrell Issa. That's why they want to come. They want to be the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
They want to be Jank.
Yeah, and very importantly, he of course misses out on the fact that he just thinks, we're all the best. America's the best. Our poor are the best. But no, our poor are far poorer than the poor in many other Western countries.
He says the income inequality.
We do far better.
I don't have this in front of me, but perhaps you do. But when he says our income equality is not nearly as income inequality-ish as other countries, I think that's wrong. I think
there are some countries that have worse.
Of course, there are countries,
but not a lot, especially not Western countries.
But not Western countries, right? I mean, there's lots.
Yes, that's right.
I believe there are 26 Western countries that have more equality in terms of their income than us.
Yeah, if you're ranked number 27, that's not really something to brag about. Yeah. We're number 27.
And we're talking of developed countries, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No. I was actually wrong there. The 26 measure, that's specifically, there are 26 other Western countries, specifically in the OECD. We have a smaller percentage of our economy that's turned into cash transfer programs to the needy than 26 other countries. So we do worse by our poor than 26 other countries.
So
but it's probably a similar number for equality as well. I mean, you can measure this. There's the Gini coefficient. You can track this both year by year, in which if you were to look at the U.S., it was really, really bad back in the 30s, 40s, 20s, all that. That steadily went down, began to rise in the 80s under Reagan.
We actually did the very thing that he says that we don't do now then.
Yes.
Right? Starting with FDR and through the 1970s, where we actually did give people an opportunity to get closer to the American dream, and then we took that away.
Yeah, and inequality in America has continually gone up, not necessarily every year, but on average every year. Since the 80s until today. It's continuing to go up now.
Before we jump to the next thing, also there was an end of that answer that I want to make sure we included, because it's not like they don't know what the problems could be that causes income inequality, and it's being glossed over. Access to education, nice paying jobs, and things that'll give you the areas to live in that you can actually get somewhere in the world. And he was saying that's a characteristic of these third world countries that we don't have here. But if he thinks about it, or if someone challenges him on it, it's exactly what we're doing. Those things getting worse every year from everyone else. So to just gloss over and say we don't have these problems when we actually do have those problems shows that he knows that's what causes so much income inequality, and therefore he's going to do nothing about it.
Yeah. So why don't we actually throw to that second video clip of Darrell Issa?
Yeah, I don't think the comparison really is the one we want to make, right? We don't want to compare ourselves to India. We want to set the bar pretty high, right? We want to set the bar.
No, I appreciate your comment, but you're wrong. You do have to compare yourself with the rest of the world. We compete with the rest of the world. If we're going to have people produce automobiles, they have to compete with the rest of the world.
So I love that follow-up question by her. She didn't just let it go. She came back and asked a really smart question as a follow-up. And look, his whole point is preposterous. There's, as you guys were alluding to in the beginning, the poor guy in Mumbai is not thinking, if only I could be poor in the hollers of Kentucky, right? Ooh, to be in Baltimore, right? Right. No, they want to be. Our poor are not the envy of anyone. Nobody thinks, boy, if I was poor in America, I'd be so much better off. And in fact, John's got some stats on some areas of Baltimore that actually are worse than developing third world countries.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about this? This is information that came out in the wake of, obviously, the killing in Baltimore. And so here are some stats that are really interesting. So this is for infant mortality, a comparison of some of the areas of Baltimore to other countries. So for every 1,000 babies born, 6.1 babies will die before their first birthday, the highest rate among wealthy countries. If you look at some of the richest neighborhoods in Baltimore, then the infant mortality is indistinguishable from countries like Finland, for instance. But according to data from 2013, in some of the poorest neighborhoods in Baltimore, the infant mortality rate is actually basically the same as in Nicaragua and Uzbekistan. And so that's just inside of Baltimore. You can go from Finland levels to Uzbekistan and basically you only have to travel a couple of miles. And that's the sort of distinctions that I think are that are lost on Darrell Issa.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about America's poor. He's never cared about America's poor. He's not going to begin caring now. Although, and
that's literally life or death.
Finally, on Darrell Issa, look, to JR's point, he's sitting on all this money. He got it through the good side of America, the American dream that still does exist, right? But instead of furthering that, what he's doing is saying, hey, let's cut education, let's cut taxes, and then cut spending on whether it's to help a family in need and to feed their kids,
cut the food stamps,
right? Or it's to cut their education, it's to cut their health care, and if you're sick, you don't have a lot of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So let's find different ways to cut down their opportunity. So he is, in his case, perhaps literally burning down the bridge after he crosses.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's despicable. Despicable.
One other just fact I want to list, because I was doing a bunch of research into this, because there's a million articles have been written about how does America's poor compare to the poor of the world. And we have this idea of being at or below the poverty line. But in that, we miss so much that the poor in America are not just at the poverty line. Some of them are at half the poverty line, a third of the poverty line. A significant portion are at half. And in fact, up to 5% of households with children live on under just $2 per day.
Jesus.
That's in America.